everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Baseball Brew Crew interview series. We keep baseball history alive, one craft beer at a time. My name is Michael Mondragon. Joining me today is historian, writer, and baseball storyteller Charlie Vascellaro, who's been working tirelessly to bring an exciting new baseball project to life called the Arizona Baseball Trail. Welcome, Charlie. We're so glad to have you here today.
Well, it's nice to be here, Michael. I'm glad we met at the ballpark. I'm surprised it took us so long in life for our paths to cross. It seems like we're guys who should have met somewhere along the way before we did.
Absolutely. Well, let me tell the story. I actually went to the first game of the Arizona Fall League this year, and it was at Scottsdale Stadium, and it was the Peoria Javelinas versus the Scottsdale Scorpions. And I usually make it there for first pitch. Well, I was diverted by a sign that said there's a pop-up museum here. And I went in and I was blown away. Tell me more about the museum at Scottsdale Stadium.
Yeah, so I'm part of an organization. We're a nonprofit. We're a 501(c), and we're called the Arizona Baseball Legacy and Experience. And we've been putting together museum exhibits in Scottsdale and in Arizona and Tempe. We've helped in Mesa for about a decade. We didn't start to give ourselves the moniker. ABLE is our acronym, Arizona Baseball Legacy and Experience. That only came around about 5 years ago, but we've been doing this for longer than that. We've assisted in Cactus League Hall of Fame induction ceremonies and luncheons. We've put together some historic videos and installations, museum exhibits in the Little Red Schoolhouse at the Scottsdale Historical Society, in the Scottsdale Public Library, in the Civic Center, in the Tempe, the Arizona Heritage Center, and in the Mesa Historical Museum. We've been doing this for quite some time. A lot of the items in our collection, the memorabilia and artifacts, some of them are things that I own personally, and some are the president of the company, our organization, not company, Mike Phillips. He's got some stuff. We have good friends who loan us things. A good friend of mine, Rick Hemmerly, is an umpire who's umpired at all different levels and manages to find his way into some spectacular artifacts and equipment. And other people who discovered us the way you did, and they show up at the exhibit and they say, "Oh, I have something I'd like to loan you." A guy gave us the pitching rubber from the Phoenix Firebirds, which is on your hat. The same night that you were there, he came back the next day and he had a old rubber from either Scottsdale Stadium or Phoenix Muni. I don't know. But
oh, wow.
Yeah. So we've been telling the story of Arizona baseball history for quite some time.
That is amazing. And so my background, as I was born and raised in Arizona, and I played baseball at Shadow Mountain. Kurt Schilling was a senior when I was a freshman. So when he was drafted and came back, I actually got to hit against him. And it's a famous story that I told on my blog that I bounced out weakly to second base, but I did hit off him. I can tell that to everybody.
You made contact.
Yes, but before, about that time, like 1985, I was actually a bat boy for the Phoenix Giants at Phoenix Municipal Stadium. And then they eventually became the Firebirds right after that. But that was the last year that they were the Phoenix Giants, the AAA for the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, I remember those days well. When they made that transition from Muni to Scottsdale Stadium, I was a intern at the Scottsdale Progress. I was going to ASU and I was studying journalism, and I got to cover them. I was basically the Progress's beat guy for the Firebirds for 2 years, 92 and 93, which I believe are the first 2 years in the ballpark, if I'm not mistaken, or 91 and 92, somewhere around there. Yeah. And funny you mentioned being a bat boy. One of my favorite items in our exhibit right now is we have a bat boy uniform and hat that was worn by a man named Eddie Logan, who's not a boy anymore. He's in his 80s. And he was the last bat boy for the New York Giants before they moved to San Francisco. His father was the clubhouse manager. That's how you get to be a bat boy. So, so his stuff, and we got this 70-year-old jersey, and it's got the word "bat boy" stitched into the tag in the back of it, and a couple of old New York Giants hats. They're real flimsy because they're falling apart, but they're 70 years old, and we have them in our exhibit.
That's amazing. And I also have another hat here. The Phoenix Giants actually go back to the 50s, and there is the original hat, and they won a PCL championship back then. And not a lot of people know that it goes all the way back to those days. So baseball has a huge and long and lengthy legacy in Arizona. So now that kind of brings us to the Arizona Baseball Trail. So how did this idea come about?
Yeah, we've created different trails in the past. We had one called the Cactus League Trail, and that included places like the Pink Pony and Don and Charlie's, these hangouts where people played, and some of it has to do with ballparks or training sites. But we kind of formalized it this year, and we're making it into an actual destination for fans where they can go and visit these sites, but we're also going to get historical markers placed on them. I was out at Francisco Grande yesterday in Casa Grande, where the Giants had their training facility for decades. And it definitely feels like a time portal just going into that hotel. The architecture of that building, all the steel and concrete, it's just a monster of a building. It's only 8 stories high, but I mean, it's got to how many tons it weighs, And I always look at it and say, well, if they ever blow up the neutron bomb, this building will be the last thing standing because it's that structurally sound. But it's on the trail. We have 9 destinations. We have a starting 9 right now. And you can find it on our website, of course, Arizona Baseball Legacy and Experience, or just Google the Arizona Baseball Trail, and you'll find it. But it's got places you'll be familiar with and some places you might not be familiar with.
So your baseball background is vast. Like, what first inspired your interest in Arizona baseball specifically?
Oh, that's a good question. And I can remember it vividly. My family moved from New York to Arizona when I was a teenager. I'm a Mets fan. I'm still a downtrodden Mets fan. But at the time, I was 14 years old, and nothing had upset me more about the move than the absence of being in a major league city. I said, "Why are you taking me to this wasteland? They don't even have a baseball team to go to, And I was 14 years old. They bounced us around. I lived in Fountain Hills, and we went to different schools, different years. We had no high school yet. And I was going to Keno Junior High School in Mesa, 9th grade. And I'm on the school bus, and it's a February or March day, probably a March day. And I look out the window as the bus goes by Hohokam Stadium. And I see other buses in front of Hohokam Stadium and guys in baseball uniforms walking around and milling about. And I looked at the kid next to me on the bus and I said, "What in the world's going on over there?" He goes, "That's the Cubs. They have spring training here." At the time, I only thought spring training was a Florida thing. That's where the Mets were. And we didn't have as many teams yet. Now we're all even up. But back then, it was just a smattering of teams around. But no sooner had I gotten off the bus that I just turned and walked right back to Hohokam. I had no mind for school that day. And so this is how it all began. It really has its genesis in playing hooky and discovering spring training baseball in Arizona. I was hooked. I was already very interested. My favorite show when I was a kid was The Odd Couple, and I wanted to be Oscar Madison. And I had played ball, but I also was writing about ball. Even in 9th grade, I was writing for the school newspaper, and I started to kind of pursue that avenue when I knew I couldn't play. I started playing again when they made men's slow pitch softball for guys like me. So. Oh,
wow. That's amazing. and I feel kind of like the same way because, in the 80s, I was playing baseball here, but again, we didn't have teams. I used to listen to Vin Scully, the Dodger broadcast on the radio because that's the only thing we got here. And so that's how I would follow baseball. And then saw like Game of the Week with Joe Garagiola and Vin Scully on Saturdays. But that's really the only way that we could consume baseball here. But then you're right. And Hohokam actually has a special place in my heart because I used to play soccer right in those fields right there. And it was the Cubs spring training. And so that's how I kind of knew there was a big, Phoenix itself, it has a lot of transient people that would come from other places because obviously the snowbirds would come because it would get warm here, right? During the spring. And so like they would just stay here. And so we had people from Michigan, Midwest, back east that would just come here. And then they, the Cubs had a huge following at that time as well.
When I was, I'm going to give you the years. It was 1979. So actually wow. I was 15 by that time. School year starts in September. Spring training doesn't start till March. So, 6 months go by. I'm the new kid with my friends in ninth grade. But another guy on the Cubs that year was Dave Kingman. And Dave Kingman, as a Mets fan, he was my guy. And, he hit all these home runs. He played for the team you got your hat on. And, the Giants, the older one.
Right.
And, so when I got to Mesa and I see Dave Kingman playing with the Cubs in 1979, I wrote an essay about it for my 11th grade English class 2 years later about that experience, because I felt like he got traded and I got traded too. I got traded from New York to Arizona. He got traded from New York to Chicago, but there we both were when I saw Kingman at the spring training, and I'm taking pictures of him. I'm chasing him around for his autograph. I had a home run ball that he hit. Actually, I'm jumping ahead in the story. That same year in July, I went back to New York and I saw him hit 3 home runs in a game against the Mets and got one of the balls.
Wow.
He was the second home run in a 3 home run game. He signed it for me right there at Shea Stadium after the game. I've been chasing him around for years. In our exhibit at the ballpark now at Scottsdale Stadium is Dave Kingman's last Firebirds jersey. So he was on the Firebirds. He started with the Giants, but he actually played on the Firebirds in 1987.
Wow.
And he was making a comeback. He had 442 home runs. He was trying to get back to the big leagues and hit that 500. He was a collusion damages award winner. He was awarded $800,000 from a fund that MLB had to pay for colluding against guys like him. So his story is crazy, and I still love it. And I love how much of it took place here in Arizona. I love the connection between me and him that we keep crossing paths. And so that jersey, I bought it at an auction. They used to have these fundraiser games called the Dream Game here, hospital fundraiser for Phoenix Children's Hospital. And they would play a game and then they would auction off the uniforms that they were wearing. But also there'd be an auction at the banquet the night before the game with a bunch of memorabilia. And this Kingman jersey, which was billed with its label as the last professional uniform worn by Dave Kingman. At the time, that was true. He played in some men's senior league that I guess it counts as professional, but I'm not going to get hung up on semantics. But I outbid Martin Stone for that jersey. The owner of the Firebirds we were going back and forth on that sheet that you sign. And I had a friend put a pick on him when they were picking up the sheets at the end to make sure that he wouldn't outbid me. And I was so happy to see it in its current form. We got a big display case the other day from the city of Scottsdale, and I've been waiting to put it in a place that would give it its proper due. And it's in there now, in the Firebird section of our exhibit.
That's amazing. And a lot of people remember the Firebirds fondly, but can't remember. It's like, do I remember this correctly? And it's like the years are kind of foggy. Did they play at Muni or did they play at Scottsdale Stadium exclusively? It was one of those kind of teams that was there and then wasn't there.
It was a 40-year affiliation, one of the longest ever.
Yeah.
You were holding up that hat before and talking about them winning a championship. They won the championship their first season, 1958. Willie McCovey was a beast. And then he went on to be the rookie of the year. But Andre Rogers, I can name all the guys on that team. I've written about them a lot. Then they won one other championship in 1977. That's it. And they were the Giants. They played in hot old Muni. It was so hot. And then they invented the Misters. The Misters that you see at ballparks were invented here in Phoenix because of that team playing in the weather that it played in. And wow. the transition to Scottsdale was very, it was kind of modernizing. It brought them into the modern times. When they left Muni, they were leaving the old sepia tone days, the old black and white days, and then they were in living color at Scottsdale Stadium in a beautiful brand new ballpark.
Yeah.
Bobby Freeman, the organ player for the Diamondbacks, had a keyboard set up right behind home plate. And Craig Platenik, the old general manager, was the phantom of the ballpark, and he would climb up on top of the roof and throw the foul balls down that got stuck on that on that little guardrail they had at the top of the roof. It was the funniest thing in the world. Bobby be playing that Phantom of the Opera music, and Craig had we didn't even know it was Craig. I'd be sitting in the press box, and for years I didn't realize he was going down the hall, changing his clothes and putting a mask on and getting up on the roof. But minor league baseball like that, that's the essence of it. It's not necessarily what's going on between the foul lines. A lot of it is what's going on the other side of the foul lines. And they sure did it right in Scottsdale. It was such a beautiful time to be a baseball fan. And there was a lot of joy when the Diamondbacks showed up, but there was a lot of sadness that the Firebirds had to go. That was a rough transition. And if you recall, I know I'm going on here, the last game ever played, they went back to Muni to play the last game. They didn't do it in Scottsdale. And what happened? A haboob rolls in as big as the biggest tidal wave you ever saw. We're out in the parking lot pregame, and we're eating the hot dogs and drinking beer in the parking lot, and this sandstorm comes blowing in. It was so fitting. It was so appropriate that would happen, because that was the essence. It was always a battle against the weather to play in Phoenix. And they did it that last game. They hired an opera singer to come out.
Oh, that's amazing.
And to sing Old Lang Syne, and like they say, over till the fat lady sings. But she was a large woman with a Viking helmet and blonde hair, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house. When she busted out that song, we all burst into tears.
And so what was that 97 that had happened?
That would have been the end of the 97 season. Yes, they called it the final flight for the Firebirds. Yeah.
And ironically, that's when I left. I actually left Phoenix to go live in California in the Los Angeles area. But I also left, and I have a similar story, and I think I can equate it to this. So I had my last soccer game. I was kind of not a semi-pro, but it was close. I played against a lot of professional players at that time, and it was literally the last minutes of the game, and we were going to lose. And so I was going to move to California right after that. And I turned to go get the ball, and I ran into the goalpost, and I split my head open. So it was what I equated it to was there was Arizona saying, now get out and don't come back. So it's very similar to that. It's like, all right, now we're going to, wash you away. This haboob is like, boom. They
literally blew out of town. Yeah.
Right. And you talk about the spring training part of this, how what a culture it became here. And to equate to that, I had not seen a real Major League Baseball game until I was 23. I saw the Houston Astros, San Diego Padres in the Astrodome. That was the first time I saw a real Major League Baseball game, but I had seen so many spring training games. I also went to ASU games. You were there when Barry Bonds was there. I saw him play. Don Wakamatsu, who's now doing stuff for the Oakland Ballers. Yeah. And so baseball was so prevalent here that you didn't really need Major League Baseball. It was here.
Yeah, it was really a soothing salve for me to discover spring training baseball. I was so upset about the absence of Major League Baseball at that time, but in the years to follow, we started off at Ho-Ho, in Mesa, but then the Fountain Hills kids got moved. I went to Coronado High School, which is just around the corner from where I'm sitting right now. I'm talking to you on the corner of Miller and Camelback. But when I went to Coronado, Scottsdale Stadium, it was, long foul ball away from where we were. And again, it was just too easy to play hooky. It was just too easy to not even go to school and go to the ball game. I saw Ricky Henderson as a rookie. The A's were in Scottsdale Stadium in 1980, the following year after what I was just talking about in Mesa. And I went to Circle K and bought a pack of cards and stuck it in my pocket. And me and my friends going to the game. You barely had to pay admission back then. It was almost optional. If you had a ticket, you used it. If you didn't, you just walked in. And so we were finding ourselves in this situation. I see this guy running around. He wasn't wearing number 24. He was wearing some high number. And I didn't know who he was, but he's stealing bases left and right. I think he stole like 6 bases in the spring training game. And I said, what in the world was that? What did we just see? And I opened up my pack of cards, and I got a Ricky Henderson card in there. His rookie card is in my pocket the day that I first see him. And I went over to him, and he signed it. That card is on display right now in a slab in our exhibit. And I can revisit that whole day every time I look at that card. I can remember every detail of that day when I was 16 years old.
Wow. And what the Coronado Dons?
Yes.
Am I correct on that? We played them with Shadow Mountain.
Oh, yeah. We pay homage to Scottsdale High School baseball history. We had a fantastic installation last spring in the Little Red Schoolhouse at the Scottsdale Historical Society. And we had these panel discussions where we brought out the legendary old coaches, Jerry Dawson from Chaparral and Jerry Kibler from Horizon. And these guys had bitter rivalries in their days, and they produced players who went on to the big leagues. We got Paul Konerko's Chaparral jersey and his White Sox jersey. They're both from championship games that he played in. The White Sox jersey, he hit a home run in the 2005 World Series wearing that jersey, and we have the bat too. And it's all because we made friends with his coach, Jerry Dawson from Chaparral. But in our exhibit at Scottsdale Stadium, we have a nice quadrant that's devoted to Scottsdale baseball history, beginning all the way back with Jim Palmer at Scottsdale High in the early 1960s.
Yes, I totally remember that growing up that he had played baseball out here, and the Horizon Huskies was our rival for Shadow Mountain, the Matadors. And so I was very impressed to see those jerseys, specifically the high school jerseys, because that's another part, another level of the baseball that was here. There's a lot of Major League Baseball players that played here. Andre Ethier played here, and so many. Paul Duca, I think. Well, a lot of people played in college as well.
Ike Davis and his father Ron. There's a lot of them. We could go on and on. Danny Colon, the relief pitcher. This kid Caminiti, who was the Player of the Year last year. It's a pipeline. I'll call it what it is. It's a pipeline.
Absolutely. So, and then going back to the Arizona Baseball Trail. So can you tell us about the starting nine and why those sites were chosen?
Oh, I'm going to have to dig it up somewhere. But I know that the Warren Ballpark in Bisbee is one of them. I know that Francisco Grande we talked about is one of them. I think we may have included Prescott, some of these mining towns. There's some fantastic history of the old mining leagues and the outlaw leagues, Globe and Prescott and Yuma. They were playing baseball in Yuma in the 1870s. Mm-hmm. That's the first known game that recorded. We have a panel on that at the exhibit as well. And I'm trying to remember if we included some of the Cactus League ballparks in the probably Phoenix Muni would be included. But I have to look up what the nine is. This is a fluid project, and the starting nine is only the first nine. We're going to be building on this Arizona Baseball Trail, and there are things I would like to add to it, like the house that Willie Mays lived in when baseball was segregated and he couldn't stay in the hotel when he came out. He lived in a house next to the Black Elks Lodge, and it's like Central and 7th Avenue. He continued he continued. That house, I don't know if it has a marker on it or not yet. It certainly needs one. In Tucson, Larry Doby and Satchel Paige had similar living conditions, and I went and found the actual house where they lived. High Corbett Field would have to be included, I think, in the starting nine for its significance, and it's still there. Where the Giants played in the 50s and in the 40s even, old Phoenix Municipal Stadium does not exist anymore. It was on Central and Mojave, very close to Chase Field now, but there was a ballpark there. We've lost as many ballparks as we have. I used to go to Compadre Stadium in Chandler. It's a favorite place of mine. There was Geronimo Park in Apache Junction in the 60s. There was obviously Desert Sun Stadium in Yuma where the Padres were. So a lot of these places have fallen by the wayside over the years, and they were much more modest. Even Scottsdale Stadium used to just be made of wood wood and a little chain link fence on a roller. I remember when the game was on the third base side, they just rolled the chain link fence open. That was the entrance. Then they rolled it closed when the game was over.
And you brought up Compadre Stadium. I've actually been to Compadre Stadium, and that was in Chandler. It's actually right around where I am right now. And I think that I actually have two things that I can contribute to the pop-up museum, which is, one is I have a ticket from the Firebirds from Scottsdale Stadium, but I also have a ticket from that Compadre Stadium game, spring training game. So it's like, these are things that I just have in my collection because I don't throw away anything, especially baseball related. So I'd love to contribute those.
Please.
Yeah. And also Keno Field, people would probably famously know that's where Randy Johnson, hit that bird. I think it was in like 2001.
Yeah.
And at that time, the Tucson Sidewinders were there.
Yeah. And also that was the Diamondbacks spring training home. They used to call Tucson Electric Park. I don't know if it still carries that moniker. Everybody just calls it Keno again now. Yeah. But I remember when that ballpark was christened in the first spring of the Diamondbacks' existence, 1998. And I loved going there. I still love making the trip to Tucson, although they don't have the spring training baseball anymore. You can go to High Corbett because it's U of A's field. And I was just wandering in circles around it the other day. I was reminiscing with a friend of mine. I was taking a walk with some dogs, and I remembered one day jumping over the fence because I didn't have a ticket and landing in the batting cage. I had no idea what was on the other side of the fence. I said, well, it looks like I'm in. I better get out of this batting cage before somebody catches me.
And High Corbett, people will remember because Major League was filmed there, correct?
Correct. The scenes where the Wesley Snipes character, Willie Mays Hayes, gets up out of bed and steals a base, comes running down third in his pajamas. He reminded me a little bit of Kenny Lofton at the time, because Kenny Lofton was a guy you would see at High Corbett Field. I said, oh, look at Wesley Snipes. He kind of resembles him a little bit, and it was the association of the two of them at the same ballpark. So.
Yes. And what a lot of people don't know is that actually the reason why they made it slow motion is because Wesley Snipes was actually not a fast runner. They actually enhanced that. I think there was some issues about his ball playing skills as well. Yeah. They had to kind of work around that. Movie magic. Yes. So what opportunities does this trail create for tourism or local community engagement?
Oh, yeah. I think it's abundant. One of the things I like about the trail is not just the ballparks, but the surroundings. I've always had favorite watering holes that I thought were relative to the whole experience. The Coach House on Indian School Road, the Red Sox used to hang out there when they were playing at Scottsdale Stadium, and it became the first integrated bar in Scottsdale because of the Red Sox. There were sundown laws in Arizona. These were segregated days, and a lot of establishments wouldn't even allow a black person in. But at the Coach House, they had players like Pumpsy Green and Lenny Green and Felix Mantilla, and they were on the team. So if they come rolling in with Ted Williams or somebody from the Red Sox, the owner's not going to say no. And so he said, sure, you're welcome. And there's these famous photographs, which are very telling. And the Coach House would be a stop for me on the trail, whether or not it's included in our starting nine. When I was a younger guy, and to this day, I still go to Carson's in Old Town. And that was the bar where the umpires hang out. And you'd go in there and you'd see umpires after the game and you could talk to them. Some of these guys would get mail from fans because they didn't know how to find these guys any other way. They would just send a letter to the bar and say, this is for Bill Miller. I have to follow up on this conversation I was having with him. I saw Jim Joyce, the famous Jim Joyce. And I sat at the bar one time and he looked around the room and there was only 8 people in there. So he said, hey, next round's on me. So, yeah. We had, and in the minor league days, that's where everybody went to Carson's after the game at night when the Firebirds first came to Scottsdale Stadium. because you had to go somewhere after the game. And the whole staff, you'd see the manager, you'd see Ron Wardis there after the game. You'd be talking to him and the PR staff, maybe the general manager, ticket salespeople. I was introduced to the place by an official scorekeeper at the time named Dale Messmer. And he said, "This is where we go, kid. You're coming with us," And so I kind of cut my teeth in there. So
wow. Well, great minds think alike. That's basically why we started this, was to go around the country, go internationally to all these ballparks and have experiences. We call the adventures of craft beer and baseball is what we call ourselves. And so basically we would go to these stadiums and then report on the craft breweries that were around the stadiums. So it was kind of like a dual effort here. And so like at Scottsdale Stadium, Goldwater Brewing is right there, walking distance. So we would talk about that. And so like these are two things that come together, beer and baseball, very easily. If you don't like one, you'll like the other, right? And it's great if you love both, right?
And when you're on that dusty trail, you need to wet your whistle every now and then. So
that's it. So that's amazing. And I love that this whole thing is bringing one community, actually three: baseball people, historians, people that love, go into these other places as well, like breweries. And it's just bringing great, just a fun time, and it's an escape. So what kind of partnerships are you looking for when it comes to promoting this? Yeah,
so we were very fortunate on this exhibit that the city of Scottsdale kind of sponsored our appearance there. They made it possible. They made a donation. They also made the arrangements for us to be able to get into Scottsdale Stadium, which is run by the city. Only when the Giants are in town do they take over. They pay rent and take over the operations, but it's a city operation. So they've been fantastic to us. We have an ultimate goal of trying to create a brick and mortar Arizona Baseball History Museum here in Scottsdale as well. We've been working towards that goal. This is a great showcase for us right now, being able to have the venue at Scottsdale Stadium. And they gave us the gift shop, 2,000 square feet. So we had a blank canvas when we came in. I remember when we first looked at it, it was all filled with folding chairs on those dollies and tables. And I could hardly imagine what it was going to look like when we museumed it out. But now it looks like it was meant to be a museum. It looks like a studio, and they have these great room dividers that we had some fun hanging things on and creating a flow through the exhibit that is kind of a linear narrative. Some of the stuff we have this year, which we never had before, we have some vintage equipment from a guy named Gary Wheelock, who used to play and coach, and he was involved with the Mariners organization as well. But he's a collector of this stuff, and he loaned us these gloves, and we got a catcher's mask from 1883 and these old mitts. And so we're going deep, we're digging deep, and the narrative starts in the 1800s, and then it loops around to present day, right up to the moment, because we're participating in the Fall League. This is happening as the Arizona Fall League is playing out. So we're celebrating history and we're creating history. We're in the cycle of it. And when you walk around the exhibit, you make your way from the old days to the present days, and then you right back into the ballpark. You go watch the ball game. So
that's fantastic, and it's definitely an enhancement to something that I was already excited about, opening day of the Arizona Fall League. So it was the cherry on top that I got to see all this baseball history there. And so how can fans, historians, or local businesses get involved with your efforts as well?
Yeah, we love it. And we've been hosting people from all of those areas. We've been bringing in on our soft opening, there was a lot of representatives from the city and the convention and visitors bureaus and things like that. We're definitely looking to attract sponsors, anybody who wants to put their name on this with us. And I think there's a natural connection between some of these industries, like we talked about, restaurants and bars. So where do you go after the game? How do we channel that traffic out of the exhibit and into some form of commerce, and so we're doing that. And we have our website. We have ABLE, AZ, Arizona Baseball Legacy and Experience, and we also have the Arizona Baseball Trail. And on those websites, there are sponsorship opportunities. There's ways of reaching out to us if you want to be involved. Like I said, we're our ultimate goal. We want to recreate there was the Pink Pony in the old days. The Pink Pony on Scottsdale Road is where everybody went. Charlie Briley, who opened that place up in the 40s, he had some connections to baseball people like Dizzy Dean. Ted Williams came in there. Billy Martin famously drank there. And it had decades and decades of this involvement where it was a place to go, but it was also kind of a museum. They had all the memorabilia. Don and Charlie's was very, same idea, all the stuff that Don Carson had hanging on the walls in there. So we're trying to recreate that experience a little bit. Ultimately, we'd like to have a baseball museum and bar so that you can, and the bar would be kind of a funding mechanism for the museum. We're a 501(c)(3), we're a nonprofit, but if we paired it with an establishment, I think that's one of the ways that we can make this happen.
Well, I have a lot of connections to craft breweries here, so we can definitely make this happen. And what does success look like for this project over the years? Are you looking at a 5-year plan, 10-year plan?
Well, I mean, ultimately, I think we'd like this to be a permanent, thing, a permanent exhibit. And we as the years have gone by, we've executed things like a 5-year plan that ultimately landed us in Scottsdale Stadium just now. So things are moving forward. This is probably the best venue we've ever had for the exhibit. We've had some great venues, but I really like the idea of being in the ballpark. Someday that we're going to launch out of that, but put a place somewhere nearby, somewhere here in the Old Town, downtown area, I think would ultimately be the place. We had great traffic. We had great pedestrian traffic when we were in the Little Red Schoolhouse, because you almost have to walk past that to get to the game, one direction or the other. So yeah, maybe within the next 5 years, we'll have a building and the collection will grow. We've had fantastic donors. They trust us with their stuff. We get it from them. We put it in boxes. We bring it back to them, call them up again and get it out again. But maybe if we had that brick and mortar building, they could simply leave it there and know it's safe and not worry about the transient nature of what we've been doing. So I'd love for us to put some stakes down here.
I love it. And I am super excited about this project. And I'm looking, I told you when I met you, I said, whatever I can do to help this project and make this happen, because obviously I have roots here. I just moved back recently, so I've been back a year. And I say to everybody that loves baseball that there is so much baseball here that it's almost like unfair, I feel. And this is just another example of something that I can't believe that something like this is even in the works, and that we're at the ground floor of this, and we can actually support this and make this happen. So please give us where we can go to support this project, the website.
Yeah, ableaz.com. It's Arizona Baseball Legacy and Experience is our acronym. But it should be very easy enough to find. We got a Facebook page, I think, so you can look on there too. And then the Arizona Baseball Trail, we created a separate website for that. But there's probably a link to that. There is a link to that on the AbleAZ website as well. So these are projects that are running concurrently related to each other.
Great. And we'll put all of this in the description, also on the screen, so everybody can get to it. Charlie, this has been a fascinating conversation. I want to follow up on this conversation again and chart the progress. And I'd love to talk some more baseball with you as well. Yeah,
let's do it either this way or at the ballpark itself. We've got a week left with the exhibit right now. It'll run until October 20th. I'm not sure when this video will run, but if people are seeing it before then, we have a big event on Saturday. We're having a Sabre Day. Society of American Baseball Research is gathering in the exhibit, and we're going to have some presentations about some of the content. So it'd be it's 2 hours prior to the game. So the game's at 5:30. 3:30 is when we're having the presentations made. So
fantastic. Well, again, thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to our follow-up discussion.
Thanks so much, Michael.